Welcome back to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Threats to the American way and the global status quo extend beyond China. We spoke with Frank Gaffney, Executive Chairman of the Center for Security Policy, about the most important player of what's being called the new axis of evil. Frank, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you back on the show.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
So with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, China has played a role, right, helping Russia invade these sanctions. But now it seems like Iran is also stepping in. There's now headlines saying Iranian troops are on the ground in Crimea, helping Russia use Iranian-made drones. So how do you see all these players working together?
Well, there's an axis. One might call it an axis of evil between China, which is the most important player in the mix, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, too. We mustn't forget them, among others of lesser light. But those four are now working hand in glove to bring about a, well, New World Order is a hackneyed phrase, but I think it's what they strive for. They wish to dominate the world for evil, and we are the impediment to their realization of that ambition. So they are collaborating on the ground in Ukraine. They're doing nuclear weapons, simulated attacks in places like Russia and China. They are collaborating in buying up Russian oil that's sanctioned, Iranian oil that's sanctioned, and in some cases moving it to the rest of the world to the profit of China and the sanctioned nations. So there's a lot going on, and the North Koreans are trying to hold up their end of the bargain by firing ballistic missiles over Japan and the like.
And Frank, Iran is also part of China's Belt and Road Infrastructure Initiative. And so how do these two regimes' global goals play into us here in America, especially?
Well, the Belt and Road Initiative is, to be clear, a vehicle for colonial infrastructure build-outs. This is all for the purposes of giving the Chinese Communist Party global reach, global domination, for that matter. And the Iranians are just one of many nations. Last count, it was something like 145 who have gotten into bed with the Chinese Communist Party to one extent or another, usually taking loans that build, as I say, railroad networks, roads, ports, airfields, and the like. And what they find in country after country is, especially if they can't make payment on these loans, the Chinese essentially expropriate whatever it is they've built, and in due course, inevitably, will use them for military purposes to project power. And that's a threat to us, as well as, I think, the countries immediately involved.
And given China's interests in the Middle East, but also globally, what can we do to counter that?
Well, I think the first thing to do is to make absolutely clear the nature of the problem that we're facing. We've put together something we call the CCP Challenge. And since we last talked, Tiffany, we've posted it at our website, ccpatwar.com. You'll also find at that site the book that we've published called The CCP is at War with America, and the brief, which explains what that war looks like, how it's being waged against us, and the dangers associated with not responding appropriately to those threats. The CCP Challenge identifies 6 different ways that we need to act now to challenge and counter what the Chinese are up to. The first is to recognize that they are a mortal enemy, a transnational criminal organization, and that they must be defeated by us. The second is to adopt a war footing akin to what the Chinese have done, to prepare for conflict and to otherwise ensure that we can withstand what they may have in mind for us. And that includes, by the way, third, disengaging from the supply chain dependencies that we currently have with the Chinese. Fourth, we need to rebuild our military. It is in sad shape at the moment, I'm afraid, and getting worse by the day for a whole host of reasons, mostly the Biden administration's war on our military, frankly. Fifth, we need to ensure that people who are compromised by the Chinese Communist Party, who are in positions of influence or high office in our country, resign from such positions. And finally, sixth, we need to stop underwriting the Chinese Communist Party. We are making possible the war that they are waging against us currently on an unrestricted pre-kinetic form. But unfortunately, it seems increasingly likely that it will take a kinetic form in the near future. So those are the sorts of things we need to do, not just to counter what they're doing in the Middle East, but to protect ourselves as well, and for that matter, the rest of the world.
And Frank, any last words you'd like to add?
No, my arm is breaking, and I hate to bring this to an end, but I'm relieved that we're hopefully filling your need. And I thank you very much for bearing with me on the logistics for today.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Pleasure. Thank you.
新中国联邦人。